For over 10 years, many fans of Star Trek thought it was a show about exploration and teamwork. While the series is unique, the teamwork shown on screen was very different from what happened behind the scenes. There were real fights and conflicts on set, not just scripted ones. Captain Kirk, played by William Shatner, revealed that there were many instances of arguments and even fights due to the high emotions involved. William Shatner worked hard to provide the best viewing experience for audiences. Behind every fight, insult, and intense moment in Star Trek, he played a key role. But how did he become the most disliked person on set? And how did that impact Star Trek? William Shatner was born on March 22, 1931 in Montreal, Canada, during a huge snowstorm. The roads were so bad that his mother couldn't reach the hospital, so he was born at home. It seems his life was meant to begin with excitement and drama. From a young age, Shatner showed he had a talent for acting. At just 8 years old, he joined an acting school run by a famous Canadian actress. By 10, he was acting professionally. His first role was in a CBC radio show called The Magic Flute. Soon after, he played Tom Sawyer in a local theater, where audiences admired his confidence and charm, noting he performed well beyond his age. In 1948, Shatner began studying at McGill University, but he wasn't a perfect student. The student later confessed that he missed more classes than he went to. However, he excelled in theater. In 1950, he wrote and acted in a student play that became very popular and even got noticed by CBC, leading to his first TV appearance. By 1956, he took a risk and moved to New York City to pursue acting full-time. His first big chance came when he got a role in a Broadway play called Tamburlaine the Great, but it only lasted for 20 performances before it closed. After his time on Broadway, Shatner made a big leap into television in the late 1950s and early 1960s. He appeared in many shows, including Alfred Hitchcock Presents, The Defenders, and The Outer Limits. However, his most memorable performances were on The Twilight Zone. In 1960, he played a man who becomes obsessed with a fortune-telling machine in an episode called Nick of Time. Then, in 1963, he starred in Nightmare at 200 Feet, where he played a passenger who believes there is a creature on the wing of the plane. These roles highlighted Shatner's acting talent. In 1968, William Shatner nearly starred in a TV show about Alexander the Great, where he would have played the lead role. The pilot, which also featured Adam West, who later became famous as Batman, focused on Alexander's battles against the Persians. However, the network chose not to continue with the show, and it was only released later as a TV movie. If the series had been made, Shatner's career could have gone in a different direction. In 1966, William Shatner became Captain Kirk in Star Trek, but getting there wasn't easy. The first pilot featured a different captain, Jeffrey Hunter, as Captain Pike. NBC turned it down because it was too slow and smart. Instead of canceling the show, they asked for a second pilot, which is unusual. This was Shatner's opportunity, as he was busy with other work in New York when he received the call. After watching the rejected pilot, he liked how it was made, but thought the actors seemed too serious. Soon after, Jeffrey Hunter chose not to come back because he wanted to focus on films, although Shatner suggested there might have been more reasons for Hunter leaving. With the captain's role available, Shatner took it and made it his own. He wanted Captain Kirk to be different, not just a strict leader, but someone curious, adventurous, and excited. Kirk needed to be both adventurous and friendly. He should be the kind of leader who can casually suggest, "Hey George, turn left," instead of giving strict orders. This blend of confidence and friendliness made Kirk relatable and easy for audiences to connect with. To create this character, Shatner took inspiration from two heroes, Horatio Hornblower, a brave naval captain, and Alexander the Great, a role he had portrayed in a TV show 2 years before. He infused some of Alexander's boldness into Kirk's character. Humor was added to the character of Kirk because the first Star Trek pilot was seen as too serious. This made Kirk more relatable. He could laugh, tell jokes, and form strong connections with his crew. It was this mix of strength, humor, and warmth that made people love him. One of actor William Shatner's biggest challenges came early in the series when Kirk's personality split into good and evil parts. He had to show both sides of Kirk's struggle, which showed the character's complexity. Leonard Nimoy, who played Spock, came up with the now famous Vulcan neck pinch, which became one of Spock's iconic moves. Shatner and Nimoy often worked together to rewrite scripts, while their changes led to some great moments. They also created tension during the 1967 episode, The Trouble with Tribals. They spent 14 hours reworking dialogue for Kirk and Spock, cutting lines for other characters. This upset the writer, David Gerrold, and by the third season, the rest of the cast jokingly called the show the Shatner show, but the tension wasn't always funny. In 1968, while filming The Paradise Syndrome, Shatner and Nimoy had a heated argument with the director. Shatner wanted Kirk's memory loss scene to be dramatic and emotional, while Nimoy thought it should be more subtle. The disagreement delayed filming for hours until producer Gene Roddenberry stepped in to mediate. Shatner's strong personality sometimes caused friction on set during the filming of The Man Trap. In 1966, he thought Nimoy was getting too much. Shatner purposely walked into Nimoy's camera shots 17 times, which led to so many retakes that Nimoy almost quit. There were also moments of teamwork and courage. In 1968, during the filming of Plato's Stepchildren, Kirk and Uhura shared what is seen as the first interracial kiss on American TV. Shatner was concerned about how people would react and suggested they film a version without the kiss. However, Nichelle Nichols, who played Uhura, felt that the kiss was important and wanted to keep it. She and Shatner purposely messed up every take, which forced the studio to use the real kiss. This moment became a significant part of TV history. Filming Star Trek was tiring for everyone, often lasting over 16 hours a day. The hardest day was during the 1967 episode The Doomsday Machine, when the cast and crew worked 22 hours straight. Shatner's day usually began at 5:30 a.m. for makeup and often ended after midnight. The long hours on set eventually took their toll on Shatner on October 3rd, 1968, while filming The Tholian Web. After working 18 hours straight, he had a meltdown. Frustrated, he threw his script and refused to continue unless he was given a break. This led to a new rule requiring rest periods for the cast. However, the grueling schedule didn't really improve the strength from Star Trek, had a serious impact on Shatner's personal life. His first marriage to Gloria Rand broke down during the series. In a 2018 interview, Shatner admitted that over the 3 years of filming, he missed 217 family dinners, including his daughter Leslie's 5th birthday in 1968. He even skipped Christmas Day in 1967. To reshoot scenes for the gamesters of Triskelion, Gloria became increasingly frustrated, especially when Shatner missed their daughter Elizabeth's school play on April 12, 1968, because of yet another rewrite session with Nimoy. By June 1969, shortly after the show ended, Gloria filed for divorce, citing his constant absences and emotional distance. Shatner later said he regretted missing a lot of time with his family, including 47 weekends with his kids, after Star Trek ended in 1969. His life changed completely. Though the show had a small but dedicated fan base, it was not enough to keep it running. After the cancellation, Shatner had a hard time finding acting jobs because people only saw him as Captain Kirk. Just a few years earlier, he was considered a rising star, even being compared to Marlon Brando. In the early 1970s, Brando was unemployed and uncertain about his future. Things got worse for Shatner, who had to accept any acting jobs he could get, even in low-budget films that didn't help his career. He acted in films like Big Bad Mama, The Devil's Reign, and Kingdom of the Spiders. These weren't the roles he wanted, but he needed the money. As a result, people began to see him only as a sci-fi and horror actor, making it even harder for him to break away from. Without a steady income, he found it hard to support his 3 daughters, who lived with their mother in Beverly Hills. He became so poor that he had to live in a camper in the San Fernando Valley. He later called this tough time in his life that period, because it was hard to discuss. The once famous actor was homeless and took any job he could find, no matter how embarrassing. He even showed up at small parties or events just to make some money. One Christmas, he couldn't afford presents for his daughters, so he wrapped up items he already owned, like his Star Trek phaser, and gave them as gifts. It was a tough and humbling time, but Shatner never gave up then. In 1979, everything changed. Star Trek was revived as a film, and Shatner returned as Captain Kirk with a $35 million budget. The movie was one of the most expensive films ever made at the time. Originally, Paramount had planned a new Star Trek TV show, but after Star Wars became a massive hit in 1977, they decided to turn it into a At first, William Shatner wasn't sure if he wanted to come back for the movie, but a good paycheck and some say over the script persuaded him. At 48, he worked hard to get fit, losing 25 pounds by eating well and exercising. However, filming was challenging because the script changed often, sometimes even on the same day they were shooting. Shatner frequently disagreed with the writers and director, trying to include exciting ideas like a daring space jump for his character Kirk. Sadly, this idea was dropped due to budget and safety issues. Although it faced challenges, Star Trek: The Motion Picture was released in December 1979 and generated a lot of excitement among fans. William Shatner was praised for his portrayal of Captain Kirk, showing both the character's essence and a new level of maturity. The film earned $139 million globally, which was good, but not outstanding. The next movie, Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, came out in 1982 with a smaller budget and became a huge success, making $95 million. $8 million, and being hailed as one of the best in the series. The Star Trek films grew into a huge franchise with 13 films released between 1979 and 2016 beyond. Ticket sales, Star Trek influenced real-world technology and popular culture with iconic phrases like "Beam me up, Scotty" and "Live long and prosper" becoming part of everyday life. However, Star Trek V: The Final Frontier 1989 brought major challenges. Shatner directed the film and wanted the crew of the Enterprise to embark on a deep, meaningful journey to search for God. The studio disagreed with his vision, forcing. Years later, Shatner said he wasn't prepared for such a big project and called it a failure that stayed with him for many years. The movie had problems from the beginning. In 2001, William Shatner started a foundation to support women battling addiction in honor of someone important to him. He married Elizabeth Martin, and they appeared to have a strong relationship for nearly 20 years before divorcing in 2020. And a few years later, they got back together and were living together again by 2024. Shatner described Elizabeth as the excitement in his life, and they learned how to support each other without making the same mistakes as before. Despite the challenges in his marriages, Shatner has stayed close to his daughters, who remember him as an involved father. All three of his daughters have. William Shatner has had small roles in Star Trek projects after his time on the show. He loves being a grandfather and enjoys spending time with his grandchildren, sharing stories and creating memories. Throughout all the ups and downs, Shatner's life shows his strength. Even at 93 years old, he values love and family, showing it's never too late to begin a new part of life.